right, man. We are going to kick this sucker off. 41 kids. 41 kids. And
is that a lot?
That's, everyone's a little bit different when it comes to this about like how many is too many. 41 children feels like a lot. So, yeah.
Feels like
here's
a lot,
the thing. Here's the thing, right? Nobody knows anyone that has 41 kids. But everyone will know who I'm going to talk about that has 41 kids, right? Like, that's the thing that's very interesting. You will not expect this. It's going to probably be the last thing we talk about in this episode. But everyone will know who I'm talking about when I start talking about them. But no one knows that this person would have 41 kids. And
exactly.
It's pretty bizarre. It's pretty bizarre behavior just to even have that to begin with. But yeah, so let's just jump into it, man. Let's get this sucker going.
All right.
Let's roll.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Welcome, everybody. You get the Horn Show. Tad and Jeff here. You know what? I said I was going to close with it. I think I'm going to open with it. This will be the first story we have here tonight. We're going to roll right into these things because, I'm thinking about changing the name of the show to Tight 45. We're going to try and keep this episode to a tight 45 minutes.
We need a bell. That's what we need. Just, we need the old, you get the, what is it, around the horn. Yeah. That's what we need. We need that bell.
Yeah, or we need the Sandman from Night at the Apollo to Showtime at the Apollo to come sweep us off stage or give us a hook.
There we go. I like it.
All right, so we were talking about it. We lost a legend recently. Aston Barrett. Aston Barrett has the nickname Family Man, and there's a real good reason. Aston Barrett is the former bassist and band leader of Bob Marley and the Wailers. Died recently at the age of 77 years old. Aston Family Man Barrett is survived by his 41 children.
So much for one love, huh?
I hope not. If so, I feel real bad for that poor woman. Aston Family Man Barrett. I mean, has there ever been a more fitting nickname? Like, at what point did they dub him Family Man? Was it after his 11th kid and then he had 30 more? Like, what? When do you decide to give him that nickname?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, 5 would probably be where I would probably start at least considering nicknaming him Family Man.
Yeah, Family Man, Aston Barrett.
He just kept going.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, he's going to break it.
That's it.
Aston Family Man Barrett. So former bassist and band leader of Bob Marley and the Wailers, died at 77 years old, had 41 kids. It seems unnecessary. And it only seems that way because it is unnecessary to have 41 children. There's no good reason.
Seriously.
There's no good reason.
At 30 kids, was he not like, I gotta do something else here? Like,
this feels sufficient.
Something. I don't know. I was
vow of celibacy.
Right. I was reading one of the comments, and someone was like, "This will was probably as long as 2 CVS." Receipts stapled together.
Yeah, his will's like the Bible. It's like War and Peace.
It's gonna take him 2 years to get through it.
Yeah, he's the only guy with a will that has a foreword written by somebody else.
Table of contents.
Yeah, he's got a full glossary of terms in the back and everything. I mean, there's no reason. 41 kids. While I don't know Aston Barrett's financial situation, I can't imagine that he died with a lot of money.
I wouldn't think so, man.
I can't imagine.
That dude literally was paying child support up until he died.
Yeah, you have to feed 41 kids. Like, there's no scenario that you have money left over from that.
No. I mean, I barely have enough money left over too.
Yeah, and I mean, he's the bassist and band leader of Bob Marley and the Wailers, but he wasn't Bob Marley. Even Bob Marley would have been like, damn, I'm broke. I'm trying to feed 41 kids. This guy's not Bob Marley.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it's going to turn out later that Ashton Barrett lived his whole life in a tent. He had nothing. No earthly possessions.
No, there was nothing to give to those kids. Besides love, I guess.
That's it.
Could you even name your 41 kids? Like, what do we see? Who was that? Floyd Mayweather was going through his kids' names, and I think, what do you have, 12? Or was it? Or no,
it was Antonio Cromartie back in the day.
Yes,
Antonio Cromartie back in the day, yeah.
And that was like 9 or 10, and like he was having trouble. Like, dude, which one are you again?
Yeah. You sure you're one of mine? It's like in Home Alone, when they're getting all the kids into the van to leave 100%. To go to the airport, and they're doing like a quick head count and everything. It's like 41 kids. They're definitely, you're leaving people behind. It's easy to miss somebody.
You're leaving a good 8 to 12 behind at that point. Like, I don't know. I lost count at 28.
And what's really funny is if there's a high likelihood that if Aston Barrett ever saw Home Alone, he may have named one of his children Kevin McAllister just because he was out of names to give them. It didn't matter. It's just like he's just grabbing pop culture references, a neighbor's dog. He'll just name the kids anything at that point.
Looking around like, Sunshine, Rain Cloud.
I mean, it's pretty amazing. And 41 kids. I don't know, again, why you'd want that or anything, but it's pretty amazing to have been able to do that. And again, it's a fascinating story. I mean, he's done all kinds of different things. Clearly very, very successful. But so supposedly, and I just brought this up, and I wanted to make sure I remember to, because there's irony in the story. The name Family Man was given to Aston Barrett before he had any of his own kids.
Say that's the problem.
He foresaw his role as a band leader, and he started to call himself Family Man. He then fathered 41 children, which was 23 daughters and 18 sons. He also claimed to have 23 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren.
I literally would be expecting like double the amount of grandkids and even great grandkids at that point.
Yes. How do you not have like 113 grandkids?
Right.
41 kids.
Maybe they saw it and be like, nope, I'm not having kids.
No, we don't need this.
Yeah, I was busy raising the other 13 because my dad was too old. I'm good.
So yeah, there you go. So that's a little history for you there on Aston Family Man Barrett, who just died recently at the age of 77 years old.
He is literally resting in peace. I can promise you that much.
Finally, little silence. All right, so let's move on here, man. So I read this story, and I read the story in quite a bit of detail, because I was floored by it. A man spent years building a model of the Eiffel Tower with 700,000 matchsticks in order to get into the Guinness Book of World Records. He spent 8 years piecing together 706,900 matchsticks to make a 23.6-foot model of the Eiffel Tower. Turned out he used the wrong matches, and the Guinness Book of World Records said he wasn't eligible. So apparently the rule is that the matches have to be commercially available.
So there's rules
Yes.
to build an Eiffel Tower for Guinness.
He's trying to break someone else's record. He's not trying to start a record. There's someone that already has this record.
And someone put a bylaw out of rules and regulations for building a matchstick Eiffel Tower.
Yes. It's very important because someone already has the record and he was trying to break the record. The existing record is owned by a guy named Tufik Dahar from Lebanon. He made a matchstick Eiffel Tower that was 21.4 feet high in 2009, and he used 6 million matches, little matches. This guy thought that he had a little cheat and used bigger matches, but he made the thing 2 feet taller than the existing record. And then Guinness said, nope, you can't use those matches.
So he didn't look into the bylaws of matchstick making Eiffel Tower for the Guinness Book of World Records before he spent the last 8 years building this thing.
He sort of did. Here's where it gets interesting. He bought these matches. Guinness told him that the matches have to be commercially available and they can't be cut or, disassembled or anything like that. Okay. So this is where it gets interesting. He started off by buying matches from the supermarket, and then he was manually removing the heads off of the matches. But then he went to a manufacturer and he struck a deal for them to sell him 33-pound boxes of headless matches. So just matchsticks. So he was like, perfect. Now I can go ahead and just use these and build it. However, they said no, because he had worked out a deal to buy them privately and they weren't commercially available. That makes it illegal for him to do. Now, there has been a little bit of good news, if you want to say that. Guinness has now said that they will review it because their people may have been a little hasty in their decision of rejecting his bid. So they're now reviewing it again to see okay, can we make an exception here or kind of, I don't even want to say an exception. It's just, how do we interpret these rules? Did he actually break the rules or not? So 8 years, over 700,000 matches. And now it's going to come down to what the Guinness folks feel like is fair.
So they're going to get a tribunal together and discuss.
Yes. Yeah, they're going to meet at the Hague, and they're going to go through and.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not even going to clown on them for spending the last 8 years building a matchstick Eiffel Tower. I don't know why you decide that's how you want to spend your life, but hey, whatever you want to do with your time, that's up to you, right?
He says it was his dream. He said that having a world record was a childhood dream. I always had that in the back of my mind.
I mean, he couldn't take up rock skipping or anything. How
he
much
started
money
in
would
his
he have
living room.
spent?
Well, he started in his living room in December of 2015, and he finished it this past December 27th, which was the 100th anniversary of the death of Gustave Eiffel, the French civil engineer who obviously designed the Eiffel Tower. And so he literally did this over the course of 8 years to end on the anniversary of the death of Gustave Eiffel, and then got told, you used the wrong matches, it doesn't count.
Oh my gosh, man.
Yeah, but I do think they may work it out. There is still hope. There's still hope out there. So the good folks at Guinness said, so. And their exact quote, I'll give you the exact quote from what they say. Mark McKinley, the director of Guinness's Central Records Services, told NBC News, it's the job of our records management team to be thorough and fastidious in reviewing evidence to make sure the playing field is level for everyone attempting a Guinness World Records title. However, it does appear we might have been a little heavy-handed with this application. We will make contact with the record holder again, as well as review rules for similar records as a priority to see what can be done.
So they did this after a big stink was made about it and said, well, all right, let us go back and take a look. I mean, it's good PR for Guinness if they do this, right? I mean, who in this day and age is still trying to break Guinness World Records? It's just, it's such a weird thing that people do. But again, that's how you want to spend your your evenings or your afternoons or whatever. I mean, how many hours would you have put into this that you're doing this? And how much money did you spend just buying 30 pounds of headless matches? It's just,
Right.
oh my
It's a lot of
gosh.
work.
So the first guy who did this is literally breaking off the heads of every single one of these matches, presumably, and building them that way. I guess is what they're saying. So hey,
I'm not 100% sure because they're different matches. I would assume you would have had to, right? Because, in fact, I can show you. Let me see if I can bring this up because I'll show you what this thing looks like. It's pretty impressive. Show you like a little, if this will open for us here. I mean, it's pretty darn good.
I mean, yeah.
I don't think we don't need the music, but I mean, it's pretty daggone good. Very clean looking. It's a nice looking Eiffel Tower as far as matchstick Eiffel Towers go.
Is there a video playing? Because I only see like the.
Oh, it's not playing the video?
No.
Oh, weird. Okay. Don't know what's going on there. Yeah. So either way, yes, it's a nice looking Eiffel Tower. It's clean looking. I'm not sure why the video wasn't sharing on here, but regardless, it looks nice. But I mean, it is what it is, right? It's a tall wooden Eiffel Tower.
What do you do after you win? Like, are they going to take it? Or are they going to buy it from them?
Yeah, it's probably like, yeah. Now you get your living room back. You can disassemble that, start a fire, and yeah.
Oh, that's awful, man. That is really just someone pours 8 years of their life into something. I don't care what it is, right? But
Yes.
only to be told, like, yeah, that's not right. Like, I just, I couldn't even imagine, like, when he got that news, what he would have possibly been thinking.
Yeah. It's just brutal. I mean, yeah, I can't even, the disappointment.
Oh,
The absolute disappointment that would have to come from that is just crazy.
oh gosh.
All right. So anyway, let's move on here. Little thing the other day. This is a fascinating chart, and again, you don't need to be able to see the chart to understand what we're talking about here. But I think it's pretty interesting to note. This is the median household income in the United States by ethnic group. Top of this list by far, at $100,500 per year, is Indian Americans. So Indian folks make over $100,000 a year as their median household income. Filipinos are second place, over $83,000. Taiwanese third place. And then if we go down to the very bottom of the list, because there's a whole bunch of these, you go down to the bottom of the list, and it's Hispanic Americans and African Americans and Nepali Americans. The Nepalese make almost identical amount of money to Hispanics. So it's very interesting because you look at these groups and you think, like, in many cases, like there doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason based on geography or anything. Like, you got India, the Philippines, Taiwan, even Sri Lanka and Japan, Malaysia, they're all above 70,000. And then at the bottom, you have the average American, such as whatever the average American would be, right, is 56,200. White Americans are 59,900. Hispanic Americans, 43,000. African Americans, 35,000. Now, part of this could also be looked at for the percentage of population with a bachelor's degree. 70% of Indian Americans have a bachelor's degree. And when you roll down that list, the U.S. average is only 28% of people with a bachelor's degree.
Wow.
So it's a very interesting rundown on the numbers. There are some surprises, but I mean, nothing that crazy, right? And this idea that, like, oh, it's, this isn't a white Americans versus black Americans, because when you're looking at in the United States, white Americans are only in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, yeah, more middle bottom. Yeah, we
Yeah.
make up maybe the top of the bottom of the spectrum. I don't know what average American is. Like, is that like that? I guess that's a odd. Like
I agree with you. And I don't know if that's just saying all races that happen to, because like, wouldn't that be the average of all of these,
Right.
all of these different groups? And maybe that is,
Yeah.
maybe that's like averaging all of these out. And then that's what you end up with. Because you have
That
white
might make
Americans,
sense.
the average American, Hispanic Americans, African Americans. So my guess is maybe that's it, that it's the average of all of these.
This is fascinating. It really is. I mean, is this culturally like, the reason? You think of like Indian Americans, like, they are family for presumably anyways, at least that's, kind of what they let off as their, hardworking family first,
Right.
or
A
is
lot of
it
tech jobs too.
right? Or is it more of a selective thing? Because when, Indian Americans come to the United States, they're usually sending their brightest and smartest. Hey, go here, make an education, and help us back here. Like if you brought all the Indians
Right.
to the United States, that's probably going to lower that number. But you're looking at those who are, probably more well off, more educated, things like that. So, yeah, it's fascinating.
But
And
where would
everyone
that
wants to
not be
bring
the
up
case, right? Because every other place would be the same, right? I mean, Japan,
possibly,
and
but I mean,
Thailand, and
I mean, that just goes back to like, uh, culture, how you're raised, things like that. I mean, again, it's not a white black type of a situation because
at
you
all.
see like average, but again, there's a lot of, poor white folk who don't have the resources to send their kids to college
Yeah.
and do those types of things either. So, yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, the average white American makes 40% less than the average Indian American.
Yeah, I'm curious when this video goes out what people have to say about that because it's fascinating. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I would probably lean more towards when you're bringing, when you're sending your kids to America, like you're not sending like. I guess I got to be careful what words I use, but you're sending your brightest and your best because they're the ones that are going to send money back to help, the ones that aren't as well off or anything. So yeah, that's fascinating. I wish I knew the answer to that. I know everyone wants to point to race and things like that, but it's got to go deeper than that. It has to cut deeper than that.
I think it goes toward the types of jobs and industries that these cultures gravitate toward. And I say that because if you look at the top 5 here, it's Indian, Filipino, Taiwan, Sri Lanka, Japanese, right? Those are your top 5. And most of those folks, and again, I don't want to stereotype or anything, but as a general rule, when you think about those cultures, you think a lot of tech type jobs, medical jobs, right? Like doctors, lawyers, these types of things, right? A lot of very white collar professional jobs. Now, when you look at the bottom 5, Thai, Bangladesh, Nepal, Hispanic, Latino, and African American. Those are your bottom 5. And if I had to say, what do those 5 cultures gravitate toward industry-wise, I think it'd be a lot harder to figure it out, right? Like, what are Thai people known for necessarily, or Bangladeshi people, or Hispanics, or anything else? So if you found certain things, like, of course, there are going to be exceptions in any one of these things,
Sure,
right?
But that's a median average, right? So that we're not saying like every single Indian American is making over $100,000 a year,
right?
So I mean, that's I'm sure there are some that bring the average down on that.
Yeah,
but yeah, you're probably right. It's probably like the industry that they choose or they're chosen for them. I don't know how any of that works, but
I think it just has to be, right? Nothing else would really make sense. I mean, because like let's think about it like from the perspective of the weirdest, like I don't know, cliche that you could think of, right? For what Hispanic people do for work. it's like lawn care stuff, right? Like that's like the stereotype, the dumb cliche. Clearly, it's not like all they do. But if you were to look at that, you go, well, that's not a super high paying job. What's the like the cliche stereotype for what Indian people do for work? It's doctor, right? So it's like that's a big swing for for what you're going to see with those two things. And so I don't know. I mean, maybe there is a little bit of that. Like you start looking at the industries, and and maybe that is just when you start looking at averages, that could be where you chase some of that down.
Yeah, and I wonder too, like business, like owning businesses and things like that, because you think a lot of like when I think of like Indian Americans, I'm thinking of them running gas stations or different things like that too. Maybe there's some good money in that. I don't know. I mean, you got to think enough of them own them that you would think that would be the case. So, but then that goes back to opportunity. We always hear, and again, you just hear this stuff and you don't know if it's true, but they come over here and get 0% business loans and different things like that. Whereas I couldn't go start a gas station and anyone be willing to give us a 0% loan. Like, what do you know about owning a gas station? Nothing. Okay, well, we'll do it, but
right. It's a high risk loan for us.
Right. Where others come over. And again, I don't know if that's still true or not true, but I mean, that's at least I've heard that plenty of times, that they can come over and they can get super cheap loans and start businesses and things like that. So,
I think the other thing is the cultures that value education, because again, when I look at that bachelor's thing, right, the bachelor's degree, Indians are top on the list. They're also of income. They're also top on the list of percentage of people with bachelor's degrees. If I continue looking, there's only one outlier that I can really find. But outside of that, if we go to Chinese, right, Chinese are the third highest percentage of people with a bachelor's degree. And they are, I think, seventh highest on the list of income. If you have Filipino, they are fourth highest for a bachelor's degree, second highest for income. Japanese are fifth highest for bachelor's degree, and they are fifth highest for income. The only real outlying average is Korean. Korean is the second highest with a bachelor's degree, but they're very much middle of the pack. They're almost exactly tied with white Americans for their actual income. That's the only one that is valuing education really highly, but that isn't one of those top five or so for income.
I mean, you've seen the statistics between no high school diploma, high school diploma, bachelor's degree. You see those what the income differences are. So I imagine that probably has to play a major factor in that. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was interesting when I saw it. And again, it's not even that I know the answers to it, but I do think that above and beyond anything else, the cultures that we find that are the most successful are valuing both education and hard work. And in many cases, entrepreneurship as well.
Yeah.
And anytime that you see someone, not an individual, but a culture for the sake of this conversation, when you see a culture that's overly valuing one or the other, then they're not making the same type of money. So if they're valuing hard work but not education, then you just end up in relatively low paying blue collar jobs. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but when you're looking at overall average income, it's going to be lower numbers on that list. Yeah. If you're valuing your education but not necessarily entrepreneurship, you can have a very educated people, but they're not making very much money. And so it's kind of like finding that thing of both, where they're entrepreneurs, they're educated, and they're hard workers. You put all of those things together, and magically, it doesn't. That science isn't hard to figure out. But when you put them together and you see it across all people, you understand kind of who ends up rising to the top.
Maybe people should lay off white people and say that we're not we don't get everything handed to us.
Right.
Because clearly,
right.
if they are, we are very dumb at picking up the money because
Yeah, I'm out here competing with Indians and Filipinos.
yeah, like I am middle of the pack here. So
I mean, but it is interesting, right? Because there is a point. I mean, we laugh, we joke about this, but there's somewhat of a point to be made there. Is that if you listen to these quote unquote race wars, culture things being talked about in the media all the time and all of this stuff, you would think that it really is white people against the rest of the world.
yeah,
That it's like white people way up here. They have every opportunity. They have every advantage, everything handed to them on a silver platter. And no one else has any opportunity or anything like that. And then when you look at it and you go, okay, well, in America, the average Indian family makes 40% more than the average white family. Nobody is saying that they don't deserve that. Nobody's arguing and saying like white people should make more. No, it's just the opposite. It's saying, okay, so the people that are making the most of their opportunity are making the most money, right? And so anyone who isn't. And for the record, average American total amount of money that they make less than white Americans specifically is $3,700 a year. So we're talking a very small amount of money. We're talking a couple $1,000s. The white American, the average white American makes $59,900. The average overall American, all cultures, makes $56,200. So we're not talking about a very big swing here. And so I just think there's a lot of interesting things, that could be, you could do a whole episode just talking about this and the implications
100%.
culturally, racially, all of these things. But I just think it's important for anyone out there to really think about, like, rather than focus on what somebody else has or what you don't have, focus on how to get what you want.
Yep.
And then focus on how to deserve what you want. Because I always feel like this is such a thing. It's in business and everything else, right? It's like people want things, but do you deserve to have the things you want? Do you deserve to have them? Like, you can sit around all day and be jealous of somebody or wish you had something or be envious or think it's unfair. And it's easy to point to the belief or the thought that someone else must have had an advantage that you didn't have. But the reality is, I don't care what ethnic group you're looking at, there are plenty of examples in every ethnic group of people, billionaires, millionaires, all of these things, right? So if you're sitting at home in a dead-end job, are you doing the best you can possibly do at that job? Are you making yourself so incredibly valuable that that place can't hardly function without you? Or are you just kind of like angry at the world because somebody didn't already give you the manager job or give you an ownership job or some type of an opportunity, right? And so that there is such a huge difference there because, you have to deserve what you want. And if you want to make a lot of money, you have to be able to deserve to make a lot of money. It's not going to be given to you. Nobody's looking to find someone to just give a bunch of money to. It doesn't work that way. And it doesn't, and I don't care what color you are, what race you are, what gender you are, or anything else. Nobody's out there thinking, well, you're white. You definitely get the job and we want to pay you twice as much money as somebody else. That's just not how the world works. No. But it's easy when you don't have something and you think that everyone else is somehow like getting ahead of you. Be worthy of that stuff, and then magically a lot of your problems end up going away.
Amazing how that works. Amazing. Yeah. That's a novel concept, but it's easier to victim blame. It's easier to be the victim and the woe is me. I mean, it's that's the life we live. And that's the almost what's encouraged. It's never, no one is ever coming out and you have those outliers that are like, yeah, I'm not a victim. I'm like, no, this is how I did it. This is how you should follow me. But they're very few and far between. And that goes for all races, white, black, Asian, it doesn't matter. Like that's just a common thread that everyone has is we're all victims somehow, that we deserve more than what we get. Are there biases? Are there, different things? Of course there are, sure. But, when it comes down to it, it really depends on how you do things and how you approach life. That makes a difference. You're going to be a victim. If you play the victim role, you're just going to be a victim. So, I mean,
and that's how anyone's going to see you too.
Exactly.
Like,
right.
that's the only way you're ever going to be seen. You're not going to be seen as someone who's deserving of anything. You're not going to be seen as a hard worker or a hustler or anything else. You're going to be seen as someone who's blaming people and someone who's looking for an easy way out. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants to be around that. That's not what people are looking for, particularly not what employers are looking for, right? It's like, that's just not how it works, man. You gotta be worth what you want before you're ever going to get it. Because there's so many people that say, like, oh, well, I'd be totally different if I was the manager. Of course, I'd be working hard. I'd be doing this and that if I was manager. Yeah, but you're never going to be that. You're never going to be the boss unless you act like the boss when you aren't the boss and when you aren't getting paid like the boss. Like, that's what it takes. You have to own it before it's ever yours. Because then people look at you and they go, okay, I can see this person being in charge because they're doing it when they're not making the money, when nobody's watching. And that's the thing that makes you valuable.
Exactly right.
Yeah. So kids out there, pay attention. I'll get off my soapbox. All right. Go ahead. Do you have something?
No. I'm just laughing. Yeah.
All right. So talk about a bad break. Here's somebody that could certainly have blamed people. I got a little story for you here. In 1915, convicted Mexican revolutionary Wenceslao Moguel was sentenced to execution without a trial and was shot 9 times by a firing squad. Miraculously, he survived all 9 shots, including the final round to the head at point-blank range to ensure the job was done.
Oh my gosh.
Although in excruciating pain, Moguel waited for his executioners to leave and left the scene to make his way to safety. He lived on for another 60 years, passing away at the age of 85 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And let me tell you something. You want to see what this guy looks like? This is a dude who, daggone well, he got shot by a firing squad.
Yeah, you're not confused as to what happened. Yeah.
Yes. And that was his nickname.
Wow.
El Fusilado, the executed one. Faced a firing squad, received 8 bullets through the head and body, and he lived.
That is
You can see they had him on the Ripley's Believe It or Not program, the radio program there. But that's so he got very, very messed up, but he survived. Lived 60 years after a firing squad, including getting shot point blank range.
I guess they never went back after him, huh? Like, whoa, he's an escaped prisoner. Like, right. I guess they figured at that point, like, nah, we can't kill him.
He did his time. Yeah. This guy, we don't trust him. He's a chupacabra. He might be a chupacabra. We don't want to.
Yeah, they were probably scared to death of him at that point. Like,
he's a skinwalker or something. They're not going to mess with him.
Dang.
Yeah. Can you imagine that? Like, you get convicted and then it's like you get shot repeatedly, including point blank range. You're just like, all right, are they gone? All right. Okay, let me get myself out of here and get cleaned up and like.
Yeah. And they just left them, huh? I guess they were just leaving them for the buzzards to pick at him. Huh?
I think so.
Like, let's not bury him. Let's not do anything. Let's just leave him.
Apparently, so their stories differ as to how he survived. So some sources say that he was found unconscious among the dead bodies of his comrades the next day. So they'd thrown all the bodies together. I guess maybe they were going to bury them. And then he was found alive, and then he was given medical attention and recovered. Other people say that he crawled away to a church 3 blocks away where a church member found him and took him in until he had recuperated. So there's a little inconsistencies on exactly what the story was on how he survived, but he definitely survived. So no doubt about that.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Like the bullets that they just passed through, or I don't know. What are they doing? Operating on this guy?
Right.
How much blood did he lose? Like, that's a
lot of questions.
Story. Yeah.
There's a lot of questions. Unfortunately, all of this happened in 1915, so I doubt we're going to get great answers to it. But
fair.
Yeah. And dang. Mexico, particularly in 1915, real sketchy on their facts and data when it comes to their public executions.
Yeah.
Their firing squad records are just horrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Imagine
thought that was a
firing
pretty nutty
squad.
story, man.
Oh, the supervisor of that firing squad and be like,
Yeah.
guys, are you serious?
Yeah, did you shoot him in the head? Yeah. No, I walked right up to him and shot him. Yeah,
Yeah,
oh, well,
shot him
okay.
right in the head. Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead. I got another guy. Now, I just told you a guy with, you could either look at it as incredibly good luck or incredibly bad luck, right?
Sure.
Bad luck, you had to go in front of a firing squad. Good luck, you survived it. Bad luck, you look pretty disfigured. Good luck, you're still alive. You're still alive. You still live another 60 years. Right?
60 years, yeah.
Still pretty good. This is the opposite side of that coin. In 2018, Greg Mantefel was at a birthday party where he played with several dogs. A few days later, he experienced a fever and weakness in his limbs, so he went to the doctor's office. His condition rapidly deteriorated, and doctors discovered that Mantefel had contracted a blood infection caused by a bacteria found in the mouths of dogs. His situation was so severe that doctors told him his blood platelet count was so low he only had 3 hours to live. Typically, the infection causes fevers, headaches, vomiting, all kinds of stuff, but in more extreme cases, it can lead to severe sepsis, fatal septic shock, and gangrene of the extremities. Mantefel had to undergo numerous amputations to save his life, which left him without his forearms, legs, and part of his nose, but thankfully he survived the infection. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not laughing about this but in any stretch, but when you look at this, does this seem like something that you would be grateful for having survived? I mean, this guy has lost his arms, his legs, his nose. I mean, it's just brutal.
So we presume that like he's messing around playing with the dogs. They nicked him.
Yes.
Probably broke the skin, and one
Got
just
some
happened
infection
to be,
in his blood,
and he just couldn't fight. I don't know. I'm not him, so I don't know if he's grateful. I don't know if there was ever a point in time where he was like, "Yes, do whatever you need to do to keep me alive,"
right?
Or if there was this time like, "Dude, no, you got to stop." Like I tell you, we don't talk personal stories on here, but like when my dad was in ICU, he had a chance that he could have lived a little bit longer, but they wanted to put a feeding tube in him. And he was like, absolutely no way, no how, you're not doing that. And, like that was his choice, his decision. I was kind of like, all right, come on, man. Like you might be able to be, probably wouldn't have been around a whole lot longer.
Sure. But it's something.
But it's something, right? And he was like, no, I like, send me home. Like I'm ready. I don't know if this guy it was even in a coherent state of mind. Did he have a wife or anyone that was like, do whatever you have to do, to keep me alive? Look, he's alive, man. Like, I mean, that's not nothing. I mean, that's just,
and you have a lot of people that have that opinion of like, yeah, I don't want to go on life support. I don't want to go on a ventilator. Like, hey, if it's my time, it's my time. Just let me go. I don't know what the quality of life could possibly be like with no arms, no legs, like all of that stuff. I mean, it's just brutal. So, and it's such an innocuous thing. He's at a birthday party. He's just hanging out, wrestling, playing with some dogs that were there. And then next thing you know, I mean, just his whole life's destroyed by it.
He's not getting blown up by an IED or something,
right.
Like he's playing with some, chihuahuas or whatever dogs they were. And like, this is now was like, that is brutal, man. Yeah. Like, hey, you want to live, let him live, right? I just I wonder, like, at any point in time, I mean, when he's going into septic shock, can he make a coherent decision of, do whatever and maybe he did, I don't know, but it would be awful if he didn't, and the doctors are just doing whatever they can and just cutting off this limb and that limb. Like, oh my gosh, man.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Awful.
Yeah, tough story. And I saw it and I was just like, I was tempted like to not put it in, but I thought in some ways, I guess good for him, right? Like he did survive and he did fight through it, and this insane thing happens. But also I think it's important because we all struggle with stuff, right? Like we all have personal things that happen and difficulties in our lives and, go through periods of hardship. And, it's like the cliche, right? Is, well, someone always has it worse than you. They really do. And this guy's a prime example where life was going great. He's just at a birthday party with friends. And the next thing you know, I mean, he just, the entire course of his life is altered in one day. So it's pretty incredible. So if nothing else, hopefully, you know, people that listen to this, maybe make you a little bit more grateful for whatever the good things are that are happening to you in your life, because things can change quickly.
And it's hard to put, like, you know, it's hard when you're in that moment to put stuff in perspective, you know, like, yeah, of course someone has it better, worse than me, but right now I don't feel that way.
Right.
You see, when you can see living proof of that, then you're like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You know?
Really could be worse.
Yeah, maybe it's not so bad I got stuck in traffic an extra 10 minutes today, you know? Like,
Yes.
geez, that guy would give anything to be able to, I'm sure, get stuck in traffic driving to work at this point.
Great point.
Life, so, dang.
Exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. So anyway, let's move on. This is something, you know, you sent me this the other day. I don't know. I'll bring it up here. Like, I'm not going to bother with the audio because the audio wasn't great, but we'll talk about the bigger point that's being made here. And I'm going to mute this while we're talking through it. But essentially, we have a video, body cam from a police officer. The officer goes into a Goodwill store, and he's saying, "Look, I'm dealing with this homeless lady that's outside. She's barefoot. She has no shoes or anything. Can I get some shoes for her to be able to wear? You know, just doesn't have to be anything fancy." And, you know, they call the manager over. The manager talks with the officer and everything. And the cop's telling him, like, hey, you know, dealing with this homeless lady, I'd like to be able to give her some shoes. And essentially the manager says, nah, I can't help you with that, man. We're not allowed to do that. Can't do that. So eventually the officer's like, okay, can I buy some? And they said, sure, yeah, you can buy whatever you want. And the guy ends up having to spend his own money. The officer spends his own money to be able to buy some shoes, maybe some sandals or flip-flops, something for this woman to be able to wear. And, you know, look, I fully understand the corporate side of things. But the reality is, this is Goodwill. I mean, what are we talking about? $6 pair of shoes. And could Goodwill not have, like, isn't this what you're there for?
Right. And again, Goodwill didn't spend a dime on any of this stuff.
Right.
Like, this is free stuff for them. They get free stuff, and then they mark the prices up for people to go in there and buy. Yeah. And, I watch these videos on, you know, TikTok and X, and these resellers go into these places and, you know, buy the stuff. And, you know, part of me is like, dude, man, like, you know, they're going there and buying this, and they can flip it online for, you know, they buy it for $8 and they can flip it for $70, you know, whatever it is, you know. And, you know, I'm like, dude, people could use that stuff. But then you see videos like this and you're like, man, like, yeah, like who cares? Like, buy all the stuff up, because this is absolutely ridiculous. This is why you should never donate to a company like Goodwill. Yeah, because clearly they don't have goodwill. I mean, take that out of your name. You know, call it a resale shop. Call it whatever you want. But there's zero goodwill going on here. You paid $0 for those shoes, and I understand you got to pay employees and do all this stuff. But if you want to go back and look and see how much the CEO or the, you know, whoever is the lead of Goodwill and see what their annual salary is. Yeah. And they're making this money off of donations from unsuspecting people who think, oh, this is going to a good place. This is going to a good place. You go in some of these and, like, the prices on those things, like, are almost as worse as retail. Like, you go in and you're like, dude, like, isn't this stuff supposed to be cheap? That's why you need to really reconsider on where you donate your stuff. I'm not gonna tell anyone what to do. Do whatever you want to do. You know, it whatever, right? Yeah. But you're better. And I have a place here that's in my hometown here, and everything is free. Now, they've had to curb it because, again, of like resellers and things like that. They go in there with just grocery bags and, you know, shopping bags just full of stuff. I mean, just ignorance. Yeah. But everything in there is free. And that's how they survive. They survive off of donations. They survive off of, you know, people bringing in stuff. But you need something, you go in there and you get it and you take it. Like, that's a charity, or that's a place that you can look to donate. Like, how dare you be like, I'm sorry, we can't give away a pair of shoes that someone gave to us
Right.
because
Well,
we
and I'll
need to
tell you
make
something
$8.99.
else. Now, I want to be very careful when I say this because I'm getting ready to shed some light on this. But before I do that, I want to be clear. We are not blaming corporate at Goodwill or anything else. Because there's every possibility that if the CEO of Goodwill happened to be in the store that day, that he would be like, what are you talking about? Of course, obviously, give this officer the shoes. We want to help this woman, right? Like let's assume that that's the case. However, the most recent compensation package that I have was from 2022. Stephen C. Preston, the CEO of Goodwill in 2022, made $650,989. David Eagles, the COO, made almost $366,000. Oni Crawley, the chief marketing officer, made $365,000. The chief mission officer made $340,000. The chief mission and partnership officer made $305,000. The chief learning and talent officer made $275,000. The chief information and technology officer made $275,000. The chief legal officer and general counsel made $263,000. The VP of donated goods made $261,000. The VP of quality foundations made $243,000. The senior consultant made $206,000. The VP of government affairs made $202,000, and the chief financial officer made $160,000.
Which again,
that's a lot of money. It's millions at that point that have been paid out to the executive team of Goodwill.
Right. Now, those compensations don't compare to like a Fortune 500 salary. Sure. But again, those Fortune 500 companies aren't getting their product for free.
Right. Yes. That's right. Goodwill manufactures nothing. They're not making this stuff.
No, it's all based on people donating their unused stuff, like the stuff they don't want anymore. That's how they all make their money. So for the guy to be making $600,000, you're making $600,000 off of people giving away stuff that you then in turn resell to other people. It's insane when you think about it. I'm not saying they don't deserve to make a salary, right? I mean, I'm sure that's their job, right? Make a salary. It's insane to me that they would make that kind of money off of, like, if people just decided tomorrow we're boycotting Goodwill, we're no longer they don't have a business. They don't have a model, right?
I got something way bigger. I just found this. Goodwill is not a single organization. It's made up of a multitude of organizations, typically by state. So you'll have Goodwill of Missouri, Goodwill of Florida, Goodwill of California. I accidentally just gave you individual stuff.
Oh, my.
There's a CEO of the Goodwill of Colorado, Carla Grazier. She made $518,000 last year. The CEO of Goodwill Retail Services made $836,000 last year. The executive vice president of Goodwill of Missouri made $383,000. The CEO made $370,000. The president and CEO of Goodwill of Houston made $905,000 last year. That's just Houston. Goodwill of North Georgia, president and CEO, $887,000. Goodwill of Southern California, president and CEO, made $750,000. Goodwill of Northwest Washington, president and CEO, $473,000. I mean, I could just go on and on and on. Goodwill Industries of Central Arizona, just Central Arizona, the president and CEO made over $800,000 last year.
Unbelievable.
So yeah, I was totally mistaken. I told you the information from a guy who runs a single state versus every one of these states, and not even sometimes the whole state. It could just be central, like this part, or Houston alone. It's $600,000, $800,000 for most of these folks. That's Goodwill.
They're driving, the nicest cars, living in the biggest houses, and it's all based on someone giving stuff to them for free.
Yeah.
that they're then turning around and selling to people.
Yeah.
And look,
Pretty good
none
gig.
of their stores are nice, right? I mean, you ever been
No.
inside of a Goodwill?
Yeah.
They all have a dingy smell, like the ceiling's leaking. You know, it's not like they put that money into like upgrades of their
they just
places.
rent a place in a strip mall, the cheapest thing they can find. And
dude, it's disgusting. It's sickening, man. Like I'm sure they've done well, and I'm sure they've done good for people out there. And I don't diminish anyone that shops at a Goodwill or anything like that. I mean, you do what you got to do for your family. It's just, the fact that it wasn't like the officer coming in here like, hey, I've got, 600 people outside that need free clothing. Do you think you can help? It was,
yes,
I got one lady who's homeless who doesn't have shoes on her feet. It's, whatever time of the year it is, it doesn't matter. She's walking around with no shoes. Can you spare a pair of shoes? You don't have to set a precedent, right? You don't have to, yeah, man, you've been in here. We know you, because the officer, again, the audio quality is not great. So it's, reason we didn't play it, but he knew the guy, like, oh yeah, I know you from here. And then like one guy was like, oh, is it this lady? Or I think it was one of the ladies in there, like, oh, is it that woman? No, it's not. It's
right.
I'm telling you what this is, right? So they knew the officer, they knew of the lady, or at least the lady they thought it was. And
there was no doubt this was real.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I got a paragraph before we move on. I'm going to read this to you. This will tell you everything you need to know about Goodwill. Goodwill as a total organization is divided into 155 autonomous organizations, most of whom appear to never spend as much as they raise. As such, each organization has executive compensation, with the most senior executives receiving anywhere from $370,000 to $900,000 per year salary, an average of $650,000 a year salary. It's important to point that out, because if you look only at management kind of oversight overall, if 155 organizations pay an average president $650,000 a year, then Goodwill is spending approximately $100 million a year to compensate 155 employees. Can you imagine this? So Goodwill, if they're saying the average executive makes $650,000, they have 155 organizations, that would be, if there's only one CEO or president, only one that makes $650,000 a year, times 155 of those, that's $100 million a year that Goodwill is paying out in executive leadership to CEOs of individual aspects of Goodwill. What do you think Goodwill could do with an extra $100 million a year? It's got to be something good that they could come up with, right?
You would think. You would think that would, supply a lot of food banks with a lot of food for a lot of months, wouldn't you think?
Got to think so. $100 million a year to pay 155 employees at Goodwill. Crazy.
Again, they don't have any tangible products that they make or do. No. It is all based on the goodwill of people.
Yeah. And I've donated to Goodwill before. Like, I absolutely have donated to Goodwill several times. So, I mean, I'm very familiar with Goodwill, and but
people say, I'm sure the word is, the thing we'll get is, you get a tax break on it. I'm going to guess 5% of the people that donate request a receipt for tax donations. And what do you think the tax donations like? You're not donating a Maserati.
Right.
Like,
you're getting $20 or something, for a trash bag full of clothes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. In which when you do your taxes, they're going to be like, yeah, you still qualify for the standardized deductions, right? I mean, it's not like, you donated $5,000 worth of clothes. Here's $5,000 back on your taxes, right? No, it's pennies on the dollar that you're getting back, if that. So
we will do a more thorough investigative report at some point on Goodwill, because this has piqued my interest. So we'll do a little deeper dive on some of this, because I think there's something interesting that could be uncovered here. So
I agree.
It might be worth a little more conversation. We won't have time to get into it tonight. We're already long. We've already gone too long on this, but it's an interesting topic, and we will
Very much so.
we'll see a little more. Onto a lighter thing. This gentleman has the fastest gun draw in the world. Okay. Now we've all seen the westerns and things like that of this is the fastest gun draw. I got news for you. This is so fast. There's zero chance that you'd be able to see it or even understand what happens in it. I'm going to play this short video. It's only a few seconds, but it'll be interesting.
Ladies and gentlemen, the fastest gun in the world right here.
That was a shot. You don't even know.
Well, the first reaction that people have when they say,
Good luck to you.
2 balloons.
Got both, hold them, hot and fired. Hot and fired. That wasn't even a good one.
It's amazing. Dude, you can't even see what he's doing.
Yeah, it's insane. There's no way that you can even understand. Like, for people who are listening on the podcast, you cannot see the gun even get pulled from the holster. It happens so fast. And the second thing, he had like 2 sticks out, 20 feet from him or something, with balloons tied, 1 balloon on each stick. You did not even see him pull the gun. Both balloons pop simultaneously. It looks like at the same exact time.
Yes.
You would think it's rigged, but then the guy opened the gun. He was like, here's the shell. Like, here's each shell. They're hot and fired. Like, here are the 2 bullets, like the shells from those 2 bullets that just got fired. And you're like, how? It's unbelievable. It is like, it would be a tenth of the time that it takes you to blink. Because if somebody blinks, you can see them blink. Like, you can observe. You cannot observe how fast this dude's gun is. Like, there's no way you can see that.
No.
This is like a tenth of a blink that this guy can, out of a holster, cold out of a holster, gun out, bang, bang, back in. Not only can he go that fast, but he's accurate enough to be able to shoot each balloon. He didn't just shoot 2 bullets and stick it back in. He shot 2 targets and put it back in.
This guy could give me a 5-second head start and he would still kill me.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I don't even know how it's possible to go at that speed.
You know what?
Yeah.
Someone has to be the best at something, and it's this is his thing, man. Like, we're learning a lot today, aren't we? We're just the randomness of this world. Like, someone has to be the best quick draw in the world.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't know when it's ever going to come in handy. Right?
Nobody knows why that has to happen, but it does have to happen.
But he's practiced enough to become the best ever at it. Like, it's why? I don't know. It's not like he's in a duel very often.
Right.
I would assume, based on his age, he's probably, I'm going to guess, never been in one.
Probably never. Yeah. Probably never. And I mean, if he has, I can, besides the fact that he's still alive, I can guarantee you nobody beat him. Like, there's no scenario where somebody was like, oh, it's just too quick for me. I couldn't get he's definitely the fastest. He will win.
Yeah. Yeah. Unbelievable. Yeah.
Crazy.
It's just wild. Just wild. Like, did he grow up thinking like, I'm going to be the fastest guy to pull my gun out of my holster and shoot it?
The fastest gun in the West.
Like, at what point did he realize, like, this is probably what I should do for a living?
This is my calling. This is my calling.
There's
I didn't ask to be here, but I'm here now, and I got to make the most of it.
Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
That's your life, you know? I'm sure every guitar player didn't want to be a guitar player.
That's
right.
There's
got to be one of them out there that's just really good. I say this about, basketball. It's a sports show that we do. You should check it out. Kawhi Leonard is a fantastic at basketball. I'm convinced the guy doesn't like basketball. He's just really, really good at it. And this is a way he can make hundreds of millions of dollars because somebody else already became the fastest gun in the West.
Yep.
He decided, I guess I better play basketball. I'm just convinced the guy doesn't like to play basketball. Like,
there's a lot of people like that. We know that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of professional athletes that play because they're good at it and they make money at it, but they don't like it. Like, they don't enjoy playing the game. It's just turned out I was good at it. I've been good at it since I was a kid, and I was just on a path and I could make a lot of money. So I did it. And then but no, I never enjoyed playing it. I don't like the game. And and other guys love the game, but will never be able to play at that high level. They'll just never be able to do that.
You probably see him and it's like, I would just dude, you have no idea what I would be able to do if I was this good and had this much love for the game. You know? It's
so rare to find both of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And the ones that do are the greatest of all time. I mean, that's right. That's it. So
yeah,
good for Quick Draw McGraw there.
That's right. And last thing of the night here, I liked this idea. I don't know why no one's thought of this before, but man, it's a smart business idea. We were talking earlier about entrepreneurship. A Japanese bar is offering guest face slapping services for late night sobering up, and they're just slapping you repeatedly. He's just lining up and slapping you. Oh. Okay,
I think he's just a sadomasochist. That's probably what he is. I'm really drunk, man.
Yeah. I'm drunk again.
Dude, it's 7:30 in the morning. No, you're not. Yes, I am.
But seriously, man, I mean, can you so here's the thing, right? They do this service and they charge 500 yen to sit there and get slapped in the face to sober you up before you go home. So I looked up 500 yen, and as I recall, it comes out to be like $3.51. So you just sit there, you just get slapped to hell, and then you're like, all right, it sobered me up. I'm on my way. I mean, hey, it's not bad. I mean, if it gets you out of a ticket, $3.50 isn't so bad to just a quick slap in the face, get sobered up, and be on your way.
Is there a scientific thing behind this? Like, you're just immediately now you're sober and good to go. Like, you can't get pulled over drunk driving and be like, no, dude, I got slapped like 13 times. I am definitely not drunk.
You can't mess with me. Yeah, you can't. No. I'm good. I got my certificate right here.
Sir, you just ran over 13 goats back here. This isn't even a road.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to tell you, officer. I got slapped. So
here's my receipt.
Yeah, victimless crime.
Okay, I guess you got your receipt. You can go.
I mean, can you imagine that though? It's just like, somebody was just thinking like, hey man, you know what? Let's just set up a service, make a little extra money, and just slap the hell out of people when they drink too much before they go home. There you go. Problem solved.
It can't hurt, right?
No,
I mean, it's not like it cost you money.
Right, exactly. If nobody wants it, nobody wants it.
Yeah, like, I'm not really out anything. Yeah. Otherwise, I pay my staff $1 each. I pocket the other $2.50, and here we are. Yeah. Who doesn't want, after a hard shift of working at the bar, want to just slap one of their patrons? You know?
Somebody needs to get slapped.
Paid to do it? Yeah, why not?
It's not a bad gig. I thought that was pretty crazy.
Personal.
Yeah. Something going on with your family or something? You have personal things? Something happened in your life? Do you need to talk about it?
Dude, I'm just trying not to be drunk. I'm not trying to get all up in your family business here.
Yeah. I wanted to get slapped in a professional way, not in a personal way.
I will take my slap business elsewhere, thank you much. I'm leaving a bad Yelp review.
That's right. Not worth the money. These slaps were not worth the money. Go elsewhere.
Waitress was distracted.
But I was like, wow, what an interesting, weird thing. But look, Japan, oftentimes ahead of the curve, right? We saw here recently they had in McDonald's, they had the phone sanitizing stations built right into the sink and stuff like that. Like Japan is ahead of the curve. So, keep an eye out. There might be face slapping coming here to the US before long.
Of course, with inflation and everything here, there'll probably be about $15 per slap, but I'm sure it'll still be worth it. Look, to get you out of going to jail, it'll be worth it.
Yeah, it's worth doing. It's worth at least try it.
Ask any person that got arrested for DUI, but would you have rather paid $15 to get slapped?
Yeah.
Well,
it's gonna be. I would have definitely have done that. I wouldn't have lost my wife and kids. I would have definitely just preferred to get slapped because I got slapped anyway once I got home.
Yeah.
I'd rather have gotten slapped on the front end and prevented everything else.
Yeah. Coming soon. Look out for it. Yeah.
Keep an eye out for it. You Get the Horns might actually start to incorporate that ourselves. We might try to come up with that. Want to get first in line. It's like back in the day, everyone wanted to own like an Orange Julius or something.
Anti-M's.
This is going to be like that. It's just going to be FaceTime. We're going to set up at airports. And while you're waiting for your flight, if you've drank a little too much waiting there, you just get slapped to sobriety.
You could charge extra there. There airport fees. I mean,
oh yeah.
Oh, you're not going to be able to go on your flight because you're drunk.
That's right.
$50.
That's right.
I'll sober you right up.
That's right. Got you right where we want you. We got a captive audience. You're going to need to get on that flight.
You aren't going to have a choice. You can rebook that flight and spend an extra $800 or spend $50 to get slapped and get on the plane and be on your merry way.
That's right. Enjoy the rest of your vacation. Might have a handprint across your face, but outside of that, enjoy your honeymoon.
Sir, take good care of your wife.
All right. Well, I think that's everything for tonight. So tight 45 went to an hour and 11 minutes. So
all right. Well, we didn't say super tight.
Yeah. It's an evolution. Yeah. It's an evolution. Yeah. And so it's definitely a work in progress. I don't feel like a lot of progress is being made, but it is a work in progress.
It's a work. Yeah.
It's a work.
I don't think it's progressing, but it's a work.
Yeah. It's like road construction, basically. It's like, it's evolve. It's a living document. It doesn't really end.
It's never evolving. Yeah, maybe we just have the computers just shut down and instead of hard 45,
There you go. Yeah. I like that.
We'll get there.
All right. Well, listen, everybody, as always, we want to thank our audience. We thank you for checking us out. We try to have some fun with it. We hope you have fun as well. And we'll do our best to continue to keep you entertained. Thank you for checking us out. Follow us wherever the heck you follow things. And we're probably there. And we'll keep an eye out for you. And we'll talk to you next week. Good night, everybody.